said, my name's Alexis Marie Chute. I have 4 children, Hannah, Zachary, who would have been 5 this October, and my rainbow baby Eden, and another rainbow on the way. Pregnancy and parenting, like much of this new normal life, can prove to be ripe with their own worries and challenges. Perhaps you've discovered this as well. Many of the simple things that others take for granted, we cherish even more deeply now because we know what it is like to grieve for those little ones we'd rather be holding in our arms. Anyone who has heard me speak before knows that I love to tell stories, so I have a special one for you today. Once I went on a backcountry hiking trip with people who were far more advanced than me, the stereotypical city kid who's never camped more than 10 times and always had an outhouse, running water, and a vehicle nearby. On this particular trip, we hiked deep into the forest around Glacier Lake one sunny summer morning, carrying everything we needed on our backs. After a lovely day of traversing rocky ground and stepping over big roots, we finally arrived at our site in the middle of the forest. We set up tents, filtered water through a purifier from a nearby stream, and hung our bag of food by a rope over a high tree branch. I'd never been on a trip like this before, and it was quite the experience. When we packed up our camp a few days later and set out for home, we discovered our return trail had been washed away by a flash flood sometime in the spring. There was nothing for us to follow. Half the group decided to walk all the way back to the camp and take the trail we had taken in a few days before. The other half of the group decided to press on, using a digital compass to find their way through the forest to the parking lot where we had left our cars. I happened to be in the brave group, although it's a secret, I was a little more nervous than I let on. It didn't take us long before we were bushwhacking our way through uncharted backcountry. And after a number of kilometers, we realized the digital compass wasn't working. We were lost and on our own. Some people freaked out. Some remained calm. But as a group, we decided to press on in the direction that the compass last pointed when it was working. It was a vague guess, really, but we stuck together, held branches out of the way for the people behind us when the forest grew thick, encouraged each other that everything would be all right, even when we were not sure, even when we stumbled upon a large circle of fur that we realized once belonged to a bear, now out of hibernation. We walked for hours and hours, and eventually the sky began to slip into evening. A few stars twinkled overhead, and we looked and tried to find the North Star. Then a few stars seemed to twinkle in the horizon in front of us, and as we got closer and closer, that low sweeping constellation turned out to be the headlights of a few vehicles. It was the other group. They were waiting for us, shining lights into the woods to guide us. We had made it. We were stinky, scratched, exhausted, had turned ourselves around a million times. We're out of snacks and water, but finally, we had made it. Oh, quite a trip. Becoming parents is often like that backpacking, bushwhacking adventure. It can be unpredictable, wild, and we often are unprepared for what is to come. I remember when my husband and I decided we want to start our family, no one ever discussed with us the possibility that our baby may not live. We hadn't heard of tuberous sclerosis, which is what took Zachary's life. I had expected an easy trip with all the amenities. We would get pregnant when we wanted, have the perfect family, live happily ever after. Did anybody else have those dreams? I know I did. In the thrilling and sometimes heartbreaking adventure of having children, we can sometimes get lost along the way and lose sight of the path we expected to follow. Sometimes the terrain is rocky and uneven. We can fall and get hurt. We may become totally turned around. Losing a baby is one of the greatest tragedies that can throw a person off course. A flash flood has swept away the pretty trail we planned to take, and we are lucky not to have been swept away along with it. Some days it feels like luck. Some days it feels like a curse. But regardless of our feelings, here we are. So what do you do when you find yourself lost and heartbroken without your child? Do you stay put, secure the tent in the forest, and keep camp in that place of very present sorrow and remembrance? Do you take the safe and secure route back to the location you know, back to the foundations of who you are? Or do you wander in the wilderness, using the stars as your guide as you stomp through uncharted territory? Fortunately, there is no one right way, and you can change your mind whichever direction you want to go at any time. In my own grief, I chose wandering in the wilderness. I could not go back to being the person I was before, nor did she still even exist. I was lost in the wilderness for years, actually. Sometimes I think I still am, that's another secret. Still trying to find my way by the stars. I have come to believe that my son Zachary is one of those guiding lights in my life. One of the points in the wide, vast sky that anchors me to home. He is one of my North Stars, directing me and guiding me, giving me hope. Contrary to popular belief, the North Star is not the brightest star in the sky. Based on one source, its brightness ranks around 48th. So while it's not the strongest in illumination, it is tremendously important for another reason. Also called Polaris, the North Star never rises or sets, but stays fixed in place above the northern horizon year-round, lined up with the rotational axis of Earth. All the other stars circle around it. I like to think about our children who are not with us like Polaris. They are fixed in one place, at one age, unchanging. And amazingly, from that place, they teach us so much. We can learn to take our eyes off the next step, the small tunnel vision view of the world, and instead to look up and appreciate the broad vastness of the sky and the world around us and the beauty of life. Family, love, health, joy. It is easier to remember what really matters, to have things in perspective in times following tragedy and in seasons of healing after loss. Our children, our North Stars, are there to guide us back to ourselves when we lose our way, when we get stuck in grief, when our compasses break and the trail is washed away. Our North Stars shine on us no matter where we are on our journeys. They shine on the sure route back to the location we know. They shine on the wilderness. They shine on those who have set up camp. It is poetic that the little ones we love so much, that we grieve for, long for, weep for, are also the ones that help pull us out of the darkness of that place of loss. They save us. And no matter how strange it may sound, we will continue to parent them all our lives in a special, sacred, secret, and public way. Where there is love, life never dies. Then, as I'm sure many of you have discovered, it is easier to take this journey with others than walk alone. Your support networks, and the people sitting beside you right now may be the ones to light the path at your feet with their headlights. They have made it that little bit further and can be the empathy and strength you need to keep from stumbling or to pick you up when you do. This community is invaluable and may even become like family. Personally, I'm incredibly grateful for the love and kindness I've experienced from so many people here. A few days ago when I read this speech to my husband, he told me that there was a blip in my memory. So there is actually an alternate ending to this wilderness story that I've just told you. But for time's sake, I'm going to write about that on my blog, wantedchosenplanned.com, about life after the loss of a child. So if you want an alternate ending, you can go there to find that out. But today, as we head outside, it's not quite a bushwhacking adventure, and it's a little bit too early to look up and try to find the stars. But I do encourage you to let the love and light of your child that lives within you be your guide to healing, peace, and joy. Hugs to you all. Thank you.